Guys, today we will be listening to more Dr. G Medical Examiner. It usually has 2 or 3 cases, but since the cases were interesting, I thought I'd do both cases. Anyway, mystery diagnosis is coming tomorrow.
This round, hard stone.
Enterolith?
The exact same size as the defect in the bowel.
It took a second, and then I realized this little stone looking thing is ultimately what killed him.
Now, with the last piece of the puzzle literally in her hand, Dr. G can finally replay the bizarre chain of events that led to Philip's unexpected death. It's a gorgeous afternoon in Orlando, and Philip Green is enjoying his long-awaited family vacation.
It's pretty.
Or at least he's trying to.
He's got this girl already that nobody knows he had. That must have been uncomfortable, but ultimately didn't have anything to do with his cause of death.
But something else did. A stone-like object in his intestines called an enterolith.
An enterolith is like a rock that forms inside your small intestine.
They may develop for a number of reasons, ranging from a natural buildup of minerals in the body to problems with the digestive system itself.
I'm
They're
guessing
kind
it's
of like
from
gallstones. There's concretions that form on layers, kind of like a pearl, I guess, inside of an oyster. Believe it or not, the most common reason for these things are in the Middle East. It's people who eat persimmons. The undigested persimmon has this vegetable material that kind of sticks together, coagulates, and kind of forms this hard stone.
Good thing I
Any
like
veterinarian you talk to knows all about enteroliths because it's a huge problem with horses. If they eat enough alfalfa, the pH of alfalfa is such that it kind of causes these stones to form inside their bowel, and they end up obstructing.
But in humans, they're extremely uncommon. And most enteroliths are very small. So Dr. G is surprised to find that Phil's is nearly an inch wide.
They're not usually get that big, and they just pass through your entire bowel without any problem.
And Dr. G now believes it's been forming inside his bowel for quite some time.
This man's enterolith took a while to develop, days, weeks, maybe even months.
She suspects that the earliest symptom was just a little constipation.
First, his problem was the obstruction. Nothing was getting through.
But as the enterolith grows larger, a more dangerous problem develops.
That enterolith is pressing on the inside wall of the small intestine, kind of working its way through that wall.
Gradually, it wears away the thin lining of tissue.
This was a time bomb waiting to happen.
At this point, however, Phil most likely could have diffused the bomb.
He could have had that bowel obstruction easily corrected.
But Phil doesn't seek medical help.
Maybe he was starting to have these abdominal complaints and really didn't want to tell anybody because he didn't want to ruin their vacation.
And now, on this beautiful day, a minor misstep sends the enterolith on a fatal trajectory.
When he falls and there's increased pressure, it kind of pops it out through that weakened tissue. And then clearly, once that happened, the bowel contents leaked out. As that bowel contents leaks into his belly, the bacteria start to multiply.
But the final blow comes when the bacteria infiltrates his bloodstream.
Your body starts reacting to the bacteria. your vessels start to kind of lose their integrity and kind of get dilated. Your heart starts beating faster, and eventually you can't maintain your blood pressure. You go into shock, and you can't provide blood and oxygen to your vital organs, including your heart and your brain.
By the time the 78-year-old collapses on the floor, it's simply too late to save him.
On to the next case. Dr. G, medical examiner, and mystery diagnosis have 2 cases, sometimes 3, and rarely 4. If you want to see 2 cases, let me know in the comments.
A week later, the microscopic slides finally come back.
It doesn't matter.
And Dr. G anxiously puts the sample of Judith's thyroid tissue under the lens.
So when I look
like
at
Graves'
the
disease.
thyroid under the microscope, all of these kind of subtle, weird things that I'm finding in autopsy are making sense.
If it is Graves' disease,
But before I
affects
sign the death
glands in
certificate,
body,
I want it confirmed with the blood
like
test.
the thymus, the thyroid.
She quickly turns her attention to the tox report, zeroing in on Judith's thyroid hormone levels.
Once I get the results, I see that her thyroid hormone was extremely high.
Based on these findings and the enlarged thyroid she saw at autopsy and under the microscope, Dr. G now knows exactly how and why the 39-year-old died so suddenly.
The mystery
I'm
solved.
not going to show the typical Graves' disease. It's kind of gross. I'm not doing it wrong.
It's just before noon, and Judith Kirchner is meeting with new clients about an upcoming wedding. But today, she isn't feeling quite herself.
She's probably starting to feel a little jittery. She's probably sweating a little bit.
It's running for menopause.
And Dr. G finally knows why Judith feels so sick.
She's got Graves' disease.
Graves is an autoimmune disease that attacks the thyroid gland and causes it to produce excessive amounts of the thyroid hormone.
This thyroid hormone, it affects every cell in your body on how it metabolizes energy. And so with a very high thyroid hormone, you're going to get a very high metabolic rate.
The disease also explains the enlarged thymus gland found during autopsy.
She has an enlarged thymus gland, which is what we often see with autoimmune diseases, particularly Graves' disease.
Autoimmune conditions like Graves can be difficult to decipher, but there are certain risk factors for developing them.
Women have more risk, about 8 times as much risk as men do. Also, there's a genetic predisposition. If someone in your family has an autoimmune disease, then you may be more at risk for developing that as well.
I'm sure she had symptoms days and probably weeks prior to this crisis. The jitteriness, the tremor, difficulty sleeping, sweatiness, the loss of weight, the palpitations.
In the weeks leading up to Judith's death,
Probably
her body starts making antibodies that stimulate her thyroid gland, causing it to produce more hormone. This chemical imbalance causes Judith's heart to beat harder and faster. And on that fateful morning, the weakened organ begins to fail.
The grave problem with that elevated thyroid hormone is that it causes your heart to beat faster, that it can't even get all the blood out each time because it's beating so fast. Her heart cannot keep pace with that beat anymore, and it's starting to dilate because not enough blood is getting pumped out with each pump. She stands up, she's trying to take her breath, and she collapses. Her heart goes into a terminal arrhythmia, and they can't revive her. Ultimately, she died from congestive heart failure brought on by Graves' disease. It's just sad because she could have prevented her death if she had taken some of these symptoms a little more seriously and sought medical help.
I'll leave the video here.